Hello world and welcome to Podcast in A Minor, where I bring you the weird little songs I write, and I give you the stories behind them. Weird stories, funny stories, freaky stories, or whatever the world gives us in its glorious mystery. And now, for today's opening song. Eggnog riot, if you're gonna have a riot, let eggnog inside it, let eggnog excited. Cream, eggs, milk, sugar, and rum, it's a Christmas party, now pour me some. Take away the booze, what's that you did? You're left with custard pouring in the lid, with a sprinkle of nutmeg. Eggnog riot, if you're gonna have a riot, let eggnog inside it. West Point Christmas Eve cadets are frisky, God help you if you forbid the whiskey. Another tale where the window broke with a defenestration of Merrifold. Oh, the commandant didn't like that. Eggnog riot, if you're gonna have a riot, let eggnog inside it. Let eggnog excited, let eggnog ignited. Hello world and welcome to Podcast in A Minor. I'm Amy Zollers McAnally, a poet and an artist, and I'm in one of my moods. You just heard Eggnog Riot on the Taylor Gemini mini acoustic guitar. I put Farfisa organ in the notes and then I did not haul it out. It's kind of a big job. But here are the lyrics to the song. Eggnog riot, if you're gonna have a riot, let eggnog incite it. Let eggnog excite it. Cream, eggs, milk, sugar, and rum. It's a Christmas party now, pour me some. Take away the booze. What's that you did? You're left with custard for an invalid with a sprinkle of nutmeg. West Point Christmas Eve cadets are frisky. God help you if you forbid the whiskey. It's another tale where the window broke with the defenestration of merry folk. Oh, the commandant didn't like that. Eggnog riot, if you're gonna have a riot, let eggnog incite it. Let eggnog excite it. Let eggnog ignite it. Ideally, we would end with the sound of a gong, but I couldn't get my hands on one, so I used a tambourine. Also, would have worked the dissonant auto harp strum, didn't do that either. Okay, now this one feels like cheating. The first I ever heard of this exciting event was on the excellent podcast Christmas Past. Brian Earl, who authored a book, Christmas Past, tells the events as they must have happened in 1826 in his gentle lullaby voice. The difference here is I've added a song. Also, I plan to go on and on about the wonders of eggnog itself. So let's roll. 1826. The partying at West Point Military Academy had gotten out of hand, resulting in the banning of alcoholic beverages on campus. Any cadet caught in possession of liquor or in a state of drunkenness could be expelled. But then Christmas rolled around, and let's face it, as the song states, eggnog without whiskey is tantamount to food for invalids and convalescents, especially when it's 1826. So, on December 22nd, a trio of cadets crossed the Hudson River to visit a tavern, planning to smuggle liquor into the academy to spice up their eggnog for Christmas. And direct from Wikipedia, Private James Dugan, the duty security guard, agreed to let the three cadets take a boat across the Hudson to smuggle the whiskey. The cadets, William R. Burnley, Alexander J. Center, and Samuel Alexander Roberts, planned to purchase 1/2 U.S. gallon of whiskey as an alcohol base for the eggnog party that would take place in the North Barracks 2 nights later. Philip St. George was the 24-hour duty cadet guard of the day. Burnley, Center, and Roberts successfully obtained 2 U.S. gallons of whiskey, smuggling them into North Barracks room number 33. Cadet T.M. Lewis also returned with 1 U.S. gallon of rum from Benny's Tavern to North Barracks room number 5. Well, that should keep them warm for a Christmas Eve night. According to Brian Earl, author of the book Christmas Past and the excellent podcast of the same name, the cadets began soaking their eggnog with the smuggled whiskey around 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve. They got drunk and rowdy, and the party got bigger and rowdier through the night. Their revelry became so noisy, it woke up faculty member Captain Ethan Allen Hitchcock. He tried to break up the party, which only angered the cadets. In revenge, they knocked on the door of his room and ran away several times. Now, this illegal alcohol-fueled party was enough to get the cadets expelled. But on top of that, 2 students attacked a patrolling officer as he made an effort to restore the peace. It wasn't called the Eggnog Riot for no reason. Windows were broken, furniture smashed, banisters ripped to pieces, a gunshot was fired into Captain Hitchcock's room, and somewhere I read that somebody fell out of a window, though I can't confirm that at the moment. And technically, defenestration, mentioned in the song, it technically means someone gets thrown out a window, and perhaps that is what happened. 70 cadets took part in the Eggnog Riot, including future Confederate President Jefferson Davis. Hitchcock called for the commandant, which drunken rioters misheard as heavy weapons will be used to quell the riot. Several sober cadets took up arms to defend the North Barracks. By 6 o'clock Christmas morning, the chaos was dying down. Cadets who had not participated in the party helped clean up the place and restore some order. Drunken cadets from the North Barracks reported to formation still drunk, disheveled, and barefoot. A number of the rioters were placed under house arrest, and news of the incident reached President John Quincy Adams, who participated in the court-martialing procedures. 17 of the 70 participants were either expelled or suspended. And that was the Eggnog Riot, also known as the Grog Mutiny, which leads us right to the origin of the word eggnog. The origin is not precisely known. A search on Microsoft Bing yielded the following possibilities from several internet sources. The etymology of the word eggnog is uncertain, but there are several theories. The term eggnog is an American term introduced in 1775, consisting of the words egg and nog, with nog meaning strong ale. Or nog may come from noggin, a word for a small cup used in the 16th century. Or nog may also come from grog, a strong beer. American colonists referred to thick drinks as grogs and eggnog as egg and grog. The word eggnog seems to derive from both the meanings of nog, with the presence of eggs, and its strong alcoholic ingredients. Well, who loves eggnog? I do. I also love candy corn, if you want to get even more controversial. So what is eggnog? Let's ask our gal Martha Stewart. What is eggnog? A holiday indulgence. Eggnog's ingredients are reminiscent of custard with a kick. It's a thick, luscious beverage made with milk and or cream, sugar, and yes, eggs, which lend the mixture a rich texture, and topped with warming spices like cinnamon or nutmeg. Eggnog has become a quintessential seasonal treat enjoyed at holiday parties, oftentimes as a dessert cocktail. Now, that explanation is actually from Randy Golan, writer at marthastewart.com, and now my mouth is watering. And yes, I have made my own eggnog before, only because I was spending the winter in Romania, where eggnog was not to be found. At least I couldn't find any in Timișoara, 1999, but I did find a recipe on the internet back then. I and another American had invited a bunch of Romanian friends to my tiny apartment for an American Thanksgiving feast. And as we were introducing them to pumpkin pie, made from wedges of gray-skinned pumpkin from the street market, stuffing balls and improvised broccoli casserole, made instead with green beans and stretchy smoked mountain cheese, and a main course of 3 turkey legs, all I could find after searching 6 poulterers, it seemed a good idea to include eggnog. My Romanian friends were baffled by cake cu dovleac, meaning cake with pumpkin, no one in my vicinity seeming to know a word for pie, and a drink made with eggs in it. That also confused them, but it was a marvelous celebration. And here, courtesy of Time magazine, is George Washington's own eggnog recipe. And they introduced by saying, George Washington even penned his own famous heavy on the alcohol eggnog recipe. Only one problem: he forgot to record the exact number of eggs. Cooks in his era estimated a dozen would do. And here's the recipe: 1 quart cream, 1 quart milk, 1 dozen tablespoons sugar, 1 pint brandy, 1/2 pint rye whiskey, 1/2 pint Jamaican rum, 1/4 pint sherry. Mix liquor first, then separate yolks and whites of eggs. Add sugar to beaten yolks, mix well. Add milk and cream, slowly beating. Beat whites of eggs until stiff and fold slowly into mixture. Let set in cool place for several days. Taste frequently. Brian Earl points out, spiked eggnog only if you want to live, meaning that without pasteurization and refrigeration back in 1826 and thereabouts, adding alcohol decreased your chances of food poisoning. Randy Gollin of MarthaStewart.com goes on to tell us some eggnog origins. While its exact provenance is unknown, eggnog was likely first created by monks in early medieval Britain. Known as a posset, this holiday drink featured milk, eggs, and figs, and enlivened with ale, wine, sherry, or brandy wine. And why we drink eggnog during the holidays, she continues. The milky potion became a Yuletide tradition with splurge items like cream and alcohol thought to bring prosperity for the new year. Once across the pond, it was christened eggnog, probably derived from noggin, the Scottish or Gaelic word for cup, or nog, an Old English word for a scintilla of alcohol, or grog, a diluted rum drink imbibed by sailors. Rum-laced eggnog became the rage in colonial America, and during Christmas time, George Washington was said to serve guests sweet, potent batches loaded with brandy, rye whiskey, rum, and sherry, as we have heard. And I love how she points out the part about it was a splurge drink made from precious items like cream and alcohol, reminiscent of fruitcake, as discussed this time last year, right around the holidays. All of the precious things that go into fruitcake, so we should not balk at it. Well, that'll warm you up, all that good eggnog. And now for a ghost story, eggnog related. Maybe I've read it before, I can't recall. Let's read it again. Well, now I have two ghost story books that I have written, Glitter and Ghosts and Wassail to the Mausoleum Cakes. This one is all Christmas ghost stories. Eggnog Pie, which I will read now, should be in the Christmas edition, but it's in the first one I sent out, or the first one I released, which was Glitter and Ghosts. So, from the pages of Glitter and Ghosts, by your own Amy Zollers, Before I Was McAnally, just 2 years ago. It's full of original ghost stories and poems. And Wassail to the Mausoleum Cakes, December-related ghost stories and poems and illustrations. But the eggnog pie shows up in Glitter and Ghosts, richly illustrated in the book, and I will link that in the show notes. Okay, quick note. I originally wrote this story for a monthly ghost story exchange between me and my son every 13th of the month when I homeschooled him for a few years. Now that was fun. Now here's the eggnog pie. Let's read. Okay, the eggnog pie. Zoltan was painting colossal typewriter number 19 when the first eggnog pie appeared. He had to admit it smelled heavenly. A starving artist, Zoltan made quick work of the eggnog pie, which was studded with fruit cocktail. A week later, he was adding texture to the background of Fat Baby number 12 when the second eggnog pie emerged. Zoltan went to paint another telephone, but instead a haunted pudding mysteriously resulted. He thought he heard a thump in the kitchen. Doing inventory for his upcoming gallery show, Fat Babies and Seductive Telephones, Zoltan was struck with a sudden sense of dread and the strong scent of nutmeg in the air. He escaped to the gangly Flapper coffee house. There he confided in his friend, Babs Radville, psychic sculptor, who consoled him and invited him to her cocktail party. Babs threw a real swingin' cocktail party. The ghost of Andy Warhol showed up with cheeseburgers for everyone. Sadly, they were all vapor and smelled of 1982. Next day, Babs donned numerous beaded bracelets and a hand-twined tiara and arrived at Zoltan's to try the eggnog pie. One bite in, she announced, "Oh, the previous tenant of your apartment is still here." Babs psychically sculpted a bust of the former occupant in cheese. Using the cheese scraps, Babs and Zoltan crafted a cheese ball with plenty of sage, ghost bane, and ate some on bacon-flavored crackers. Then Babs bade him good night and went home. That night, Zoltan dreamed. The radiator in the living room was whispering an unintelligible message and had grown a pair of sad eyes underneath. He awoke to a clatter from the kitchen. In the kitchen, he saw the apparition, the face in the cheese bust, mixing ingredients at the counter. She turned and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Have I died?" She hadn't realized. The ghost gave Zoltan a motherly smile and began to fade, pointing to something under the living room radiator. Zoltan retrieved it, her recipe for eggnog pie. No longer doomed to ghost realms, its tradition politely declined to die. The end. And then included is an eggnog pie recipe. You need a 1 9-inch baked pie shell, 3.5 cups fruit cocktail, one envelope of Knox gelatine, the plain gelatin, 1.5 cups of eggnog, 1/8 teaspoon nutmeg, 1.5 teaspoons vanilla extract, 1/4 teaspoon rum extract, and 2 cups prepared Dream Whip. What to do? Drain the fruit cocktail, save 1/2 cup of the syrup, stir gelatin into the syrup, and stir over boiling water until gelatin dissolves. Remove from heat, stir into eggnog, add nutmeg and extracts, chill in fridge 45 minutes. Fold the Dream Whip into the gelatin mixture along with 1.5 cups well-drained fruit cocktail. Chill for 10 minutes before heaping into cooled pie shell. Chill 4 hours or overnight. Decorate with remaining fruit and serve. And that is the eggnog pie in its entirety. Maybe you've heard it before. I can't remember if I've read it on the podcast. The eggnog pie on the heels of the eggnog riot, also known as the Grog Mutiny. Don't be shy. Stir up the eggnog pie. Stir up the eggnog pie. It's Christmas Eve. Let the candy canes fly. It's Christmas Eve. Or mix your own eggnog, or smoking bishop, or pour a carton of eggnog from the store into your milk glass eggnog bowl. Where is mine? I have to find it. Maybe add some spirits, if you will. Whatever you enjoy. Have a jolly and delightful December, however you celebrate being halfway out of the dark. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Shall I stay at home and count my candy canes? Wassail, singing wassail. Shall I roll my own holiday spice cigarettes? Wassail, singing wassail. How the trees outside lace their bones in a festive dance. Wassail, singing wassail. Desolate, what's that? I've a cat and a phonograph. Wassail, singing wassail. Starling sky, shall I heat the Dr. Pepper on the stove with lemon for a loner's winter wassail? Stir up the eggnog pie, it's Christmas Eve. Let the candy canes fly, it's Christmas Eve. Bring the three kings out to the manger scene. Light the Christmas tree of fragrant evergreen. Sing a song of joy to the one who brings salvation, unshackled by trepidation. Sing a lullaby to the Holy King, lullaby to the haunted plum pudding. Sit by the fire for a ghost story or two. Merry, merry, merry Christmas to you. Thank you. Must I, the Encyclopedia Neurotica. It's my rule.